Hey guys, what's up? Today I'm gonna be ranking all 36 drivers for next season. Sorry I've been waiting too long to put this out, but here we go. I'm gonna have my list of drivers separated into 5 different tiers. The first tier will be the non-contenders, which are drivers I believe will not contend at all, except for super speedways or road courses. Number 36 I think will be Ty Dillon. He was really bad in trucks last year with a team that can contend for the playoffs. And he's in a team that's really not good right now. So yeah, I think he'll be last. And I believe he's just keeping the seat warm for Christian Eckes in a year or two. 35th, we're not sure yet who's going to be in the 51 full-time next year. It's sounding like it's going to be Cody Ware, who's not that great of a driver. So I put him 35th. I mean, even if it is Corey LaJoie in that car, I still think he'll be 35th. But yeah, they're going to be putting the 51 car 35th right now. Next up, I have John Hunter Nemechek in the 42. He was last in points last season, but I think legacy and him as a driver will improve next year, and he'll make it out of last place up to 34th. And he might even contend for a win at Daytona, because he's been pretty good there. From a driver who I think will improve to a driver who I think will downgrade again next year, I got Austin Dillon, 33rd. He's just been getting worse and worse every year, and I believe this will be his final year of wrecking in the Cup Series, and I think Austin Hill will replace him full-time next year, and he will go up to like management or whatever. This might be a hot take, but in 32nd in the non-contenders tier, I have Justin Haley in the 7. I really don't have high hopes for him next year. In Xfinity, he was in championship contending cars, and he's only won super speedways. Yeah, sure, he had some good runs with Rick Ware Racing this year, but he was still never cracked the top 30 in points. I think so, at least. Maybe with Daytona and Atlanta starting he did. But yeah, I don't see the potential in him. I could be very wrong about this though. So we'll see. But yeah, I have him 32nd. Also, I think Rodney Childers will help him. So I think he'll get maybe better finishing results cuz he'll have good strategy calls or something. But from a competition standpoint, I think he'll be outside the top 30 a lot. And he'll be the worst Spire car. Okay, this might be the hardest one, I think, to rank. But I have Shane Van Gisbergen 31st. I think he'll be in the top 5 on every single road course next year. And I think he'll have some good super speedway runs. But on ovals, I just don't see the potential. He didn't run good on ovals at all in Xfinity last year. And this year is just going to be in Cup Series, which is going to be a lot harder competition. Plus, Trackhouse might not be as good as Colleague in Xfinity. But yeah, I could see him, because obviously if you win a race, you're in the playoffs. So this isn't really my playoff predictions. But I think in points, he'll be around 31st, only contending on road courses and super speedways. That is it for who I have in the non-contenders tier. Next tier is the underdogs, which are drivers who I believe they won't be as bad as the non-contenders, but they also won't be up there for the playoffs consistently, but I think they could shake it up and maybe make the playoffs. So number 30, I have Eric Jones. Like I said with John Hunter Nemechek, I think Legacy Motor Club is going to improve a little bit more than last year. They still won't be great, but I think they're going to improve a little bit. And yeah, maybe he can shake it up a little bit. He is really good at Darlington. Next up, I got Cole Custer, and I have no idea how I should rank him. RFK is saying that he's going to be a 4th RFK car. But he's also a Haas car, which really wasn't that great last year. Plus, he wasn't that great when he was in the Cup Series. But he did really good in Xfinity. So, maybe Xfinity suits him better. I really have no idea. I just gotta kind of wait and see how this one goes. Next up, I got the other team rebranding. Ricky Stenhouse Jr. I don't really know what to expect from him either. He's losing his major sponsor. He's normally not that great. He is really good on super speedways. This is about normally where he is, so I'll just leave him around 28th. Next up, I got the Wood brothers in 27th. They're getting Josh Berry, who was really good in Xfinity for a few years. He did alright last year, driving for Stewart-Haas Racing. He is losing his major crew chief, though, who seems like they had a really good relationship. And I think the Wood bros are definitely going to improve from last year and Harrison Burton. But not by much, so I have Josh Berry in 27th. Another new driver, I put Riley Herbst in 26th. He's moving up to Cup Series full-time, mostly off of money. But I think he could do good. 23-11 is a really good team right now. I don't see him being that great, but maybe he could have some good super speedway runs, maybe some pop-up top 15s. That's about all I really expect from him, though. He will have a lot of pressure, though, with Corey Heim being really good in trucks again next year, I'd assume. Another driver reuniting with his old manufacturer/team, Zane Smith, will be returning to front row next year. I think he'll definitely do better than he did with Spire, especially towards the beginning of the season. They might get off to a slow start, but I think towards the middle and end of the year, he'll improve like he did last year. Because front row, they have that new alliance, so I think they'll be pretty good, especially towards the end of next year. After Zane Smith, I got his teammate, Noah Gragson. I think Noah will be a little bit better than Zane next year, especially because he's had that extra year with Ford. But yeah, front row being a tier 1. Like I said with Zane Smith, I think they're going to get off to a slowish start. But towards the end and middle and end of the year, I think they'll be really good. Not really up there competing for wins every week, but maybe around the 20s, top 20-ish. The final driver I have in the underdogs tier is AJ Allmendinger. He'll be back in Cup full-time next year. Back when he raced in 2023, I thought he was pretty underrated. He almost pointed his way into the playoffs with Colleague, and then he won Charlotte Roval in the playoffs. Last year, he was consistent in Xfinity, not really a championship contender, but towards when he got to the round of 8, he won that clutch race, made it to the championship 4. So maybe he could be an underdog next year in Cup and take a win and qualify into the playoffs. My next tier is playoff contenders. These are drivers who I think will be right around the cut line, trying to point their way in to the playoffs. And if they do make it, I don't think they're going much farther than the round of 12. Lowest in this category, I have Ryan Preece. With RFK expanding next year and Ryan Preece finding a new race team, I think they'll start off slow. But towards the end of the year, I think he'll improve a lot. I think he'll be competitive on a lot of short tracks and super speedways. So yeah, I think towards the end of the year, he'll be right up there, battling in the points for the playoffs. Next up, I got Michael McDowell, which unlike the 60 team and Ryan Preece, the 71 cars already had a year of experience. Inspire, they've had experience with that third car, and they started getting really good towards the end of the season last year. And Michael McDowell's a veteran of the Cup Series, so I don't think they'll have like the peak of the 60 team in RFK and Preece, but I think they'll be more consistent throughout the year and a little bit better. Cracking the top 20, I have Wild Thing, Kyle Busch. He really is Wild Thing, especially last year. Just completely inconsistent, wrecked a lot, could run up front sometimes. But yeah, I can't really trust him. And RCR, I can't trust them either. So I have him right here, about 20th, which is probably the lowest he's been his whole career. I believe his full-time years and being good are coming to an end. Unlike this next driver, Todd Gilliland, I think next year is when he'll really start to show up. I think he'll be consistent next year. He'll definitely have some good runs on super speedways. And yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if he points his way into the playoffs, with front row being that tier 1 organization. I think there's really good things to come for Todd Gilliland. Now we are on the top half, the top 18 drivers for next year, in my opinion. Number 18, I got Carson Hocevar. He was Rookie of the Year last year and really showed some really good runs. So yeah, I think next year we'll see more of that, maybe some more consistency, and I think he'll be right in the battle to point his way into the playoffs or snatch a win somewhere. And then in number 17, I have Daniel Suarez. He's going to have a lot of pressure next year for sure with Connor Zilisch. He is normally right around here in 17th, right outside the playoffs normally. So I think that's about where he'll be again next year. Next up, number 16. This would be the playoffs if it was just purely off of points. I got Austin Cindric. He seems like he's getting better and better every single year, and I believe that'll continue next year. He showed some really good runs last year, especially at Gateway, where he ended up taking a win. For the last driver in the playoff contenders tier, I have Bubba Wallace. I feel like the last 3 years, he's been either the last driver into the playoffs or one of the first ones out. He's been really consistent, he just hasn't been able to win, which you need in the Cup Series. So yeah, I believe he'll be right around here again next year. Maybe he'll take a win this year. On to the next tier, I have championship contenders, which are drivers who I think can contend for the championship, but they're not necessarily favorites. Lowest of these, I have Joey Logano. He's a really weird and confusing driver. Like, the first 26 races of the year, he can look like a nobody, but then come playoff time, and he's right there and he wins the championship. I must note that it is not going to be an even year this season, so he might not even make the playoffs at all. But yeah, I feel like I just have to put the reigning champion in championship contender tier. Then I got his previous teammate, Brad Keselowski. Unlike Logano, though, he had a really good first 26 races last year, but then fell apart in the playoffs. He is definitely getting older, though, so he might not be in his prime anymore competing for championships, but I still think he has a shot. From an old driver to a young driver, I got Ty Gibbs next in 12th. He's showed that he can be a championship contender at times, but also a nobody at times. So I think next year his goal really needs to be to try to step it up and be more consistent and finally get a win in the Cup Series. In 11th, I have Chris Buescher, who just barely missed out on the playoffs last year. He's been showing that he's the best RFK car every year, it seems like. He had 3 wins in 2023. So yeah, next year I think he will 100% make the playoffs, and he might be up there competing for the championship. Now, starting off the top 10, I have the Melon Man, Ross Chastain. Like Chris Buescher, he just barely missed the playoffs last year, even though he should have been in, and he ended up winning a playoff race as well. He was really good. He made the championship 4 in 2022. I think he made, round of 12 in 2023. So I think he'll be back in championship contention form maybe in 2025. Number 9, I have Alex Bowman. He's been so underrated pretty much his whole career at Hendrick, it seems like. He just has 3 other all-star teammates who overshadow him, even though he is a really good driver. Without that penalty last year, he should have been in the round of 8. And I think this year, he'll remember that and push even harder to compete for the championship. In number 8, I don't think this guy's being talked about enough, but Chase Briscoe in the 19 could be a championship contender next year. He's driving for one of the top 2 best teams next year, after making the playoffs 2 of the 3 next-gen years for Stewart-Haas Racing, which was pretty much just falling apart. And it's not like he just made the playoffs. He advanced the round of 12 and the round of 8. I think he might have a slow start, but into the summer and the playoffs, I think he'll be at his peak form, competing for the championship. These last 7 drivers, I have them in the tier as championship favorites, meaning I think no doubt, unless they have like an injury or something, they will be competing for the championship. Lowest of the favorites, I have Chase Elliott. He's got the consistency down, as shown in 2023 and 2024, but he just needs to get more wins and rack up those playoff points. If he can get like 3 or 4 wins next year, I think he'll be up there competing for the championship for sure. Number 6, I got Denny Hamlin. He's been really good at starting the years off strong, but falling apart towards the end. With his time in NASCAR possibly running out, I think he needs to finally stop choking at the end of the year and try to win that championship. Top 5, I have the fan favorite Ryan Blaney. He seems like he's improving every single year. Plus, Phoenix will be the championship race in 2025 again, which I think Ryan Blaney has like an average of 4th there or something. I also believe he will be the best Ford next year. Number 4, I have Tyler Reddick. He advanced to his first championship 4 last year, and I don't think it's going to be his last. According to Denny's plan, when he founded 2311 Racing, 2025 was the year they were supposed to be championship contenders, and I think they're on good pace. In the bronze, I have William Byron. This next-gen car seems like it suits him really well, as he's been really good. I think he has like 14 wins or something in the next-gen car. He made his 2nd straight Championship 4 appearance last year. So yeah, no doubt, he's got to be on the podium, I think. Number 2, the runner-up, is Christopher Bell, in my opinion. Much like William Byron, this car has suited him really well. He's also made the Championship 4 2 of the 3 years. I think he's a little bit more consistent than William Byron, which is why I put Christopher Bell over Byron. And the best driver, in my opinion, going into 2025 is no doubt Kyle Larson. I believe he has the most wins in the next-gen era. Only one championship for appearance, but he should have been there all 3 years, I think. Even not in NASCAR. In dirt, you hear about him every week. 99% of the races in the Cup Series, you hear about him running up front. So yeah, that's my list of 36 to 1st of all the Cup Series drivers next year. Thanks for watching. Bye.